All right, Cyber Traders, welcome on back here this Thursday afternoon, January 5th. Happy birthday to my sister, Nikki. Not as if she's listening to this meeting, though. Great to see all of us inside the live trading room. We have Ravina, Leda, Jeff, Michael, all of us loud and clear there, and all of us on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube. Great to see you folks back as well. So, right now, markets are kind of slumping off. I mean, really haven't gone much of anywhere across the whole day. Just recently failed to pop a new high and came back down. So just some consolidation, nothing really too special happening into this afternoon. Another day, another runner, a few of them, in fact, the ATXG, at least on the screen to begin, up over 70% still. So let's start off by going over this trade. Hey, today was pretty good, albeit the markets were kind of stagnant. Even with the lack of a real drop off, there were some good short opportunities that you could have followed at first. A couple of good longs like this ATXG. So, here for the meantime, ATXG ended up making a nice pop going into the mid morning. It was one that kind of just had a little activity in pre-market. We didn't really think much of this trade at first. We were more focused on the HKD and the, ABVC trade. It was on our morning watch list, mind you, but the others took, higher priority. So, we did well on the others, but this one ended up creeping up across the mid to late morning, broke out over 150, topped off pretty nicely off of 190-ish, and really where you least expect it for this stock to make as big of a move as it made even from that point. It dragged right back down in slow lunchtime area of the day. Unless if a stock is really showing good activity, even if it's going to tease you a little bit, that's still at least showing, a little bit more activity compared to what this did. This really died off. It didn't really do anything after that initial run. And then out of nowhere, just popped. Suddenly broke back up over 175, 180, took off over 2. And right now, I mean, hey, if this can make another higher low, if this could build another support level here off this 2 level, then, hey, this can make for a nice trade taking us into the close. So I'll definitely put this back on our list. And now at this point, definitely put more of a high priority on this stock than anything. All right. But of course, the big shiny object in the morning that we all wanted to focus on was the HKD trade. Not even just showing you what it did here. Like, hey, it ran from $17 up to near 40. We don't really catch that as frequent, right? I mean, hey, one a day almost at this stage with Kala and Jasper and Hoth. And, you can go down the whole list the last month or so, AM, just you name it. Well, look at the daily chart. I know Fausto brought this up in the morning meeting, but we ended up doing really well in the stock back last year. Really just in August time, ended up making this huge squeeze for us back then. And this isn't like an inflated chart or like some BS number. This actually ran at the time. These look like specks in the dust compared to all this. But this ended up running here back from like late July. It was even from like 19, 20 bucks all the way up to 2,500 per share. It became very untradeable after a certain point. So, there was a stock that back then made the same type of move as that one did, a kind of similar company, AMTD. So across the pre-market those mornings, it ended up pumping up with the HKD. So point being, I mean, hey, if you didn't trade HKD, then you could use that as like an ETF, as like a guide to try and shadow and follow the AMTD with, right? Just looking at the 1 minute chart, they ended up running up together. They ended up dumping off together. So that's what I did. I didn't trade this HKD. I ended up jumping right to the AMTD myself. I ended up missing this last little pop, or this first little pop here. I was trading it from the morning and went break even on it before it snapped back down. I was about to re-enter it as it snapped back down. I was like teasing me there for a bit. It popped suddenly over the VWAP at the time, and I missed it because I just didn't really have my eyes on it. Wasn't too interested in it at that time. And then it ended up making the move over 2. So myself and Jim ended up getting like 8 or 7 cents on it at first, maybe more like 8 or 9 cents on it. And then Jim, as soon as Jim and I finished up this call, it was squeezing up higher. So I was trying to get back in on this damn trade, and it ended up giving me that chance. It was shortly after 11 o'clock as it was breaking over, I think even like 220 at the time. Ended up really pulling back and holding that price pretty nicely as support. So it even led to a couple of good little micro bounce trades. Now at this point, this thing's definitely done. It's been beat up since. So, I even wrote this in the chat board earlier today. Not even just the price, the call out of 220, but I said to you specifically at 11:28 in the morning, AMTD lower highs, 220 support won't hold forever, so watch out. Right? I wrote that at 11:28 in the morning as this thing was kind of tailing off here. So don't waste your time trying to hope and hold. Hey, if that HKD isn't doing it, then odds are the AMTD is not doing it either. So, we'll keep these on our side list perhaps for tomorrow morning, give it a second look. Maybe if there's another big squeeze up on them, we'll take part. But, I'll pass on these here for the meantime. I'll tell you what's been treating me pretty nicely off of a specific level, although I just went break even or -2 on the last trade. The BLPH off 210. This was a really good trade looking for the bounce going into the mid to late morning. For as much up as it was, like HKD and the others, I mean, this was up so much in pre that we were expecting for this to dump off at first. It did just that. And I was looking specifically for support right off of 207, 210 area, just big volume level right from Bookmap early in the pre-market. My whole chart's a mess here. I got a bunch of these different lines, but 210, that big fat dashed green line is what I was mainly focused on. Just before, I was looking for the higher low off of 225, purple line right here, chart level. So Ravina, that's where I ended up getting stopped out for a -2 just before. But at this point now, with it making lower highs, we'll see maybe by the end of this meeting if it ends up making a sudden pop. But coming off of news early this morning, you don't want to hope and hold too long, just like we talked about, right? All right. So with that, let's just see what else we got here across the gainer side here. ABVC, another mover from earlier today, got halted a few times going up, once on the way down, and I think that was it pretty much after that last down halt. MEGL, this did pretty good. Magic Empire ended up making a good squeeze, and another one where I took my eyes off it, and then suddenly this thing just really exploded, ended up running back over 2, rebroke above resistance at that point, led to a really good squeeze at that time up towards 260, 270, and now at the stage, I mean, again, same deal, lower highs. All right, what else we got? VYNT, more of a dud than anything. Ooh, look at this little pop up on the S&P right now. The SPY right now trying to storm back up towards the highs. Look at this. A little bit of a technical flag, perhaps one would call it, just some consolidation, but, trending down, broke out off that little local downtrend line off the highs. They're squeezing up a little bit. That's nice to have. JZ, kind of flat right now. Pass on this trade. ARBK, I had this in pre-market, but it was a total dud after 8 o'clock. We took our eyes off it early. ATNF, let's go over the ATNF trade at least. This one ended up making a great move for us once again here this morning. Ended up making a nice pop on Friday, heading into the end of the 2022 year last week, and then with that on the morning on Tuesday, ended up once again running up. So aside from yesterday, this has been a really strong trade, almost day over day the whole way through. And once again this morning, it was grinding on up. I wasn't as interested in this at first. Actually, I this could be easy to say it, but this is like perfect timing where I came back to my desk and I was talking to one of my students earlier this morning. I think it was Jim on our coaching call in regards to, hey, being more patient. There's going to be stocks where you don't feel as comfortable following, even if you're, just a little uncomfortable. And if it pops, all right, well, crap, so be it. I mean, it's moving without you. We're not always going to be perfect with our anticipations. But that's where I say to Jim, like, hey, there will be times where you take a break from trading, take a breather, come back. And for the stocks that you prepped up or you charted or maybe you have on Bookmap and it's like right there, it leads to the perfect, move. And with this ATNF, let me bring this up actually, because that was exactly that. I came back to my desk and this ATNF trade was retesting resistance at 550. Keyword, retest. We talked about this in our Traders Talk workshop, which actually we put a small clip up on our YouTube channel where we were talking about this exact topic, retest. I wrote in the chat board, and retest I'm a big fan of that word. So there wasn't even a whole lot of resistance at 550 and above it, at least up until 6. So I caught this like right here. I came back to my desk after 12:30 and it was retesting 550, meaning it already hit it a few times, showed some good buying interest. And with it showing higher lows, I ended up jumping in. I think it was on this attempt even where it popped up, shook around a small bit, hung on, and just the next pop above it, thankfully, it led to that big move very shortly after, right? Just like we always talk about. So it ended up leading to a great squeeze. And not only that, but even better, well, resistance became support, $5.96. That became a critical support level afterwards, which led for this to run up as high as over 7. So myself, Chuck, for like mid-afternoon, we normally don't tend to focus like too heavily, on big trades at that time. If there's a good setup and if it's there for the taking, then so long as you set your stop, then you're playing it intelligently. When a stock breaks through a big level, should be getting a big move. So the same to be said as it topped off at 7, right? Just like we talk about, for as much as a stock like this continues to go up and up and up, well, you got to expect for it to make a pullback or hit resistance at some point. So the first test of it, expectedly so, it held, it made a false breakout. But I'm referring to right here. If you're looking for continuation over 7 and jump in right where my cursor is, well, you should be expecting a big move shortly after. As soon as it pulls immediately back below your level like that, it's a big red flag. So I wasn't out of the doghouse when it first popped above 550 again for me. There was a tiny little shake, but thankfully, very shortly after, like within seconds, you got the big move. So you should know really quickly. Fausto talks about this in the phase 3 class, which will be continuing next week live for all of us inside the trading room. All right, so with that, ATNF, a done deal. This thing is garbage now. This thing, I mean, much better short now than anything. All right, what else we got here? Just finishing up the gainer side for right now. We had data, DADA. Hey, this is still pushing up really well. I kind of ran into this right now with you folks here. So I saw this from the morning. I just thought maybe there was a chance it would still be moving up nicely and really pushing up pretty well right now. So yeah, I'll put this on our list. I would assume our next resistance would be off of 13 as far as like an iceberg whole number level. Got a ways to go to even get to some like historical resistance, perhaps. I mean, aside from maybe if you look back here, looks like relatively new IPO back from mid of 2020, bottomed out right around 1465, 1460. That's still a ways away from there with it being at 1277 live currently. So, don't hold your breath waiting for that 1460, 1467, but it's making a nice move up right now in the intraday. We'll definitely put this on our list. All right, Chuck's a big fan of cold squeezing up even more today. I was thinking we'd make that pop heading into the mid-afternoon yesterday. I signaled it, but just didn't go as the markets were dropping off at the time. So, I mean, hey, ended up today making a really strong push. So, nice run from like 32 up towards just about 37, close enough. And right now it's more of a swing trade than anything. The spreads have opened up on this. It's gotten more expensive. Back when it was like a $10, $15 ETF, the order book was so liquid on this, it made for a great day trade. It's not really a great day trade anymore. If you're in from a lower price and holding on as a swing, or if you follow it every day and do well on it for the most part, then you know who you are. The IQ stock, hey, not an ETF, but a stock, ended up making another big move up once again today. Generally speaking, the same to be said for any equity. The more expensive and volatile it runs up, the thinner the order book will get. So I don't think this will thin out too much anytime soon. But back when this was a $2 stock, it wasn't moving as well as it is right now. It was a much slower, more stagnant, much more liquid even than what you're seeing here stock. So that's what I'm referring to there. HUYA, IQ, both of those tend to move kind of similar together. So I just wanted to look at HUYA here. Not doing too bad. Just broke a new high before, albeit pulling back now a bit. These could be some good stocks to put on your side list. I'll write them down just kind of on the back burner here on the side list. The HUYA and the IQ. Futu, FUTU here ended up making a squeeze up nicely once again, recovering from the big drop off it had last week, but right now not doing a whole lot. All right, so I think that just about wraps up the gainer side. I don't really see much else that looks like good or brand name-ish here otherwise for us to kind of look at, familiar. All right, so let's hop over to the losers list. Jeez, this SI is all over the map. I mean, for as much as it dropped off over the last, month and a half, several months at that point, ended up making a great squeeze yesterday. I didn't realize that any news would be coming out this morning on it. I think their CEO came on, reported bad preliminary Q4 numbers, if I'm not mistaken. But with that, ended up leading to a huge drop in the pre-market early in the morning after the open, only continued to stumble off. Perhaps now, more than anything, it's been generally squeezing back up. It looks like it's dead cat bouncing a bit. Order book is a little thin, but the spreads are relatively tight for what it's worth. I don't mind putting this back on our list here, the SI. If you did really well on this trade from the morning, then I would want you in particular to follow it. And then otherwise, if it is shortable on your platform, let's say if you're on Thinkorswim, TradeStation, it looks like for right now, it's easy to borrow again. I think from the morning, it was hard to borrow. But if it ends up failing to squeeze up much higher from here or eventually tops and pulls back, it could provide another good short. Remember, bad news came out on it from the open. So stock that came out with good news yesterday, Gurn, clearly this hasn't gone much anywhere of up. Has only dropped off and filled the gap completely afterwards. So, again, easy to say, but you don't want to hold your breath and just buy a stock because good news came out. I think good phase 3 clinical news came out with Gurn yesterday. Crazy. So, hey, it's shortable. This actually could be a pretty good trade heading into the close with that in mind. I don't want to discriminate, actually, not put this on our list. Hey, it is shortable. It is dropping off. It's extremely tradable and liquid. Big iceberg order on the ask right now, trying to drive this thing lower. That's exactly what you would want to follow, at least heading into the 3:30 time slot, heading into the closing bell. Yeah, look at this thing go. This thing's getting crushed right now. All right. Just going down the loser side here. I think that just about wraps it up. There could be a couple more that look shortable, easy to borrow from my platform, but STEM, not a whole lot to write home about on that one, at least. Yeah, that's just about it, folks. Hey, if there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you'd want me to look at, just type it in the chat board. Definitely let me know now. I got to send out a couple of my coaching links coming up here for my 3 o'clock and 3:30 session, so I appreciate your patience on that. Andre saying, does MULN qualify? Let me take a look. If it's a cheapie, which I know it is. Often not. Looks like this is running up pretty well. I'm rooting anyone on if they're already in it, but otherwise we're not going to focus really on a stock below $1, unless if it's right at that dollar threshold, near $1, 90, 95 cents or whatnot. Not going to be as inclined. The BLPH, Ricardo, not really at this point. I think this is more gassed out than anything. Clearly has had a tough time off this 225 level after I took my -2 on it. So lower highs, lower lows. Just like I said on the AMTD trade at 220 here, 210 is not going to hold forever. 210's 207 at 210. It's been such a good level for me on this trade today, but it's not going to hold forever. So be careful on that. All right, folks, for all of us on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, we're going to finish up right now. I'm going to jump onto a couple of calls coming up here heading into the close. If you have any questions prior to joining us inside our live trading room, feel more than free to send it over through email. Josh@c2trading.com is my handle. If you're interested in joining us for tomorrow, for Friday, or for next week entirely, just go right down to the link on the green banner below the stream to get yourself set up on a trial. But for Andre, Grant, Michael, Leda, Jeff, Ravina, all of us there right now, Rich will be on the mic taking you folks going into the close, but I'll be in the chat. Like I'd said, I got a few coaching calls across my afternoon. So, I'll hopefully look to get my hands on a few of these trades, whether it be the ATXG, the data, or maybe a couple of the others that pop up on our radar. We'll see. All right, folks, I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.